What's going on, survivors, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Badge. Man, what a show we have for you tonight. We got some special guests with us, long time friends of mine and long time friends of the show. We cannot wait to hear what they have to talk about tonight. I'll go over all the show topics here in just a second. All right, guys, tonight we're going to be talking about police officer and officer suicides. We have the absolute leading guy when it comes to this in the room with us, Mark DeBona over here, and Jeff Wilbur. We really appreciate them coming to the show tonight. Mark's got 33 years experience in law enforcement. He does all kinds of stuff all over the United States to help folks that are going through these issues, and he'll talk more about that as we move along with the show. Jeff with 31, Camille with 25, John with over 20, and Ronnie, me with over 35. So about 200 years of experience in this room.
Just a little bit.
Lots of experience.
Right.
So first we're going to do one of the most important things, the beer moment.
All right, and tonight we're going to be trying the Isla Morada Beer Company Island Citrus Ale.
A little late there, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right, salute.
Not bad. It tastes more like a soda.
It is kind of soda-esque.
But it's
Very light.
yeah, light and
Who's this from again?
Isla Morada.
Oh, Isla Morada. Okay, beer company. Good.
All right, John, start us off. What's your score there?
1 to 10.
I'm going to give it a 6.
All right, Camille.
How about 5?
Mark.
I'm going with a 5 also.
Okay.
4.9.
4.9. Wow.
Always
totally on the
one in
prices,
crowd, isn't
right?
it? Yeah.
There's always that guy.
I'm going 4.8. Bitch.
I see nothing's changed, Ron. This is beautiful.
And the actual score was 6.2, and the winner is John.
Nothing's changed there either. Always got to win.
Right.
And speaking of beer, this is brought to you by our sponsors, Kenny's Grocery, located at French Avenue in 1792 in Orange City. So if you're interested in some different tasting beers and a wide selection, go to Kenny's Grocery, located at 1792 in French Avenue in Orange City. And we have another sponsor.
We do. First, let me get Kenny's up there.
Oh, so did I go too fast? Sorry.
You were quick. You were really quick. I'm getting old. You gotta help a brother out here. So our second sponsor is going to be C&R Constructors, and we'd like to thank them. They are a general contractor here in the state of Florida, and they do all kinds of remodels, commercial build-outs, whatever you need built or remanufactured in your home or your business. These guys can do it. They are really phenomenal. All right.
So with that, we're going to go into our fallen officer salute moment. This year, 2022, we've had, as of the numbers I checked today, 47 police officers killed in the line of duty. 12 by vehicle-related, 6 gunfire, and 28 COVID-related deaths. Last time I mentioned that I was going to be discussing different cases. I decided to go canine case. So we're going to discuss the case of canine out of Nebraska. It's Nitro 2, a Dutch Shepherd. And I was reading through these cases, and this one was quite interesting. So February 8th, and we've had, I say only, but we've had 3 canines killed in the line of duty so far this year. This was one on February 8th. The deputies of the York County Sheriff's Office in Nebraska, they show up to a driver who's driving around erratic. It's late at night. They attempt to do a traffic stop, refusing to stop. You know, the works, pursuit, all that, long pursuit, high speed. Then he stops and he exits, and there's a commotion. In my reading, I couldn't figure out what exactly happened, but somehow this driver gets into the canine vehicle and takes off. So he steals the police car with the canine in it. Another pursuit, going through York County just doing its thing, doing all erratic high speeds again. And all of a sudden, he turns around and near where there's train tracks and a train, and he starts heading towards a vehicle that's waiting for a train, impacts that vehicle. That vehicle and the canine vehicle go into the train and killing everybody involved, including the canine dog. Yeah. So there's some really screwed up stuff out there. So I want to offer a salute to the officers who have passed this year and the canines who help us greatly.
Salute.
Rest in
Salute.
peace.
Salute.
Salute. All right, so like I said earlier, tonight is a very special show. We've been waiting to do this show for a very long time. Mark's just so busy all the time, traveling all over, helping people, that this is about the only time we could get together. And Mark, we really appreciate you being here, brother. It means a lot to us. Jeff, thank you. Let's start with Jeff.
For coming.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little bit of your experience, and you know, the divisions you worked in, and how many years, and this and that. You don't have to give the agency, but you know, whatever. You can just say the state, and then we'll let Mark do that and segue right into his thing.
All right. Well, I started law enforcement in Massachusetts.
We couldn't tell.
I like to dry my eyes. And I worked a few years up there. Then myself, my brother, and Mark came down to came down to Florida, and I worked in Polk County for a small agency there for a couple of years
Wow, I
first.
didn't know that.
Before we got on. And I'll tell you a little funny story. My aunt knew the sheriff up here at Seminole and said, "Hey, get you an interview with the sheriff. They need some people." I was just talking to him. She was pretty close with them.
Was that Esslinger?
Yeah, Esslinger was at the sheriff. And we were like coming up from up north. The sheriff's office is just civil service and jails.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm
Very
not working in
limited.
jail.
Yeah.
I said, that's not what I want to do. So we were like, no, we'll pass. Well, then we got on different police departments down there, Avon Park and Frostproof Police. We worked a couple of years, and we understood that then that the sheriff's office was actually where you need to be.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well.
you know, some people.
That's for another show.
Point counterpoint.
Yeah. So I worked there for a little while, and then we actually all three came up to Seminole and got on the sheriff's office.
Awesome.
And we actually started the same day and retired the same day from the sheriff's office.
Hell yeah.
So,
And you got 31 years total in.
Yep, I worked undercover canine for a while, undercover unit with the canine. So I do
remember
have some
that.
canine experience.
Yeah, I
So
remember
did that
that.
for a while. Worked a few dogs, and then I worked at FTO for a number of years. I worked human trafficking for the last 5 years of my career.
Yeah, Florida's huge for that.
Yeah, it's the third highest in the country. But it was actually very fulfilling. As much as I did in the drug unit, putting away drug dealers and put them in prison for a long time and taking them off the street, there was nothing that fulfilled my career more than working the human trafficking.
Oh, I bet.
Hands down.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to hear some of the stories from the survivors, and it really changes your mind on the aspect of what law enforcement's about.
Were you working with Mac doing that? Was he over there then? Steve Mac?
He did the
He was
crimes
with the
against
feds,
the
right?
children.
Okay, yeah.
He did that side of it with
Okay,
the
gotcha.
traveling stuff, but we worked in conjunction with them
Gotcha.
on stuff. But we did the actual the girls being housed up and
Right.
sex prostitution and
Right.
stuff with them.
So I got to tell a funny story about this guy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
So we're in traffic court. Okay, this is years ago. We're in traffic court. Never seen this guy ever in traffic court, right? You know me, I was a big traffic guru, like you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
whatever. So I'm sitting in traffic court. We're down there in that city south of ours, and here comes this guy. He's like freaking Wyatt Earp when he walks in. And I'm like, look at this motherfucker in traffic court. What's up? So he comes in. Of course, we high five. You know, whatever.
Now, was this the old courthouse where you had to sit sideways? When you
Oh, they all are.
Yeah.
Oh, they're horrible.
Like, you have the armrest and
yeah.
you're all sitting sideways
Yeah.
because you can't
And then you
sit.
call the name, your gun gets caught on the armrest.
And everybody's fighting for the loose chairs. Yeah. Get out of here, seniority. So this guy walks in and he's back here and he's blah, 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 blah. And then already told everybody, okay, shut up. You know, we're getting started. And here's Jeff. He can't whisper. He's like, so, yeah, well, over here, this fucking guy. I turn around. I go like this. And he goes, what? So he's over here, and they call his name, right? And they go, Deputy Wilbur. Deputy Wilbur. And somebody goes, and he goes, yeah, over here. Like that. And I went, oh my God. And he goes, we're going to give him da da da. And he goes, yeah, whatever. That's fine. And then he goes right back to his conversation. And I'm like, gee.
I didn't skip a beat, I'm sure.
Oh, my hell no, man. You probably didn't even have to take a breath in this story. It was freaking awesome. I had good times with you on the road, man.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. When he showed up, I knew the shit was going to turn funny. It was great. It was a blast. All right, my next guest, we already introduced his name and all, but I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I started my career in Massachusetts also. I'm still wicked pisser, park my car, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, my ass is really kicking in right now too.
Yeah. That's because you're around him.
There it is, yeah, we rub off on each other, you know. So I did 8 years in Massachusetts. Part of my duties in Massachusetts, I work for the Amtrak Police. A lot of people don't know the Amtrak has a police department.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny story about the Amtrak Police, if you don't mind me saying. A lot of people don't know the Amtrak Police even exist. So we used to back up the city cops and all the time, and the housing police, and on and on and on. So one night we get a call, the Boston housing police are getting shot at. We're like, oh, holy shit, you know? So we're going lights and siren. I was driving a paddy wagon that night. I jump out of the paddy wagon, I'm driving, my party gets out, we slam the door shut, and our windshield gets shattered by gunfire. Well, oh my God, whoa.
Yeah.
And my pilot
Shit
goes,
got real.
well, my pilot goes, don't they know we're the Amtrak police?
Why are they shooting at us?
Why are you shooting at me, first of all?
What's going on over here?
We're federales, yeah. So I was like, wow. So I did 8 years in Massachusetts, moved to Florida with Jeff. Jeff actually moved a couple months prior to me moving to Florida. I did a year in Avon Park, did a year there, then came to Seminole. Got promoted in '99. Was a career sergeant. Never tested for lieutenant once. Was a field training officer for sergeants. Taught the academy. And my big thing, like you, Ronnie, was traffic. Really big into traffic.
This man led the DUI stats in the county for probably 15 years solid. Him and a guy that worked for us, an older guy, Picklesheimer, were neck and neck every single year. Salute to the Pickster.
Love the pick. Yep.
Salute to the Pickster. Yep.
And he's always a nice guy. Remember that line? I'm always a nice guy. Yeah.
But they did say I was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to tell, before Mark gets started, I'm going to tell a funny story on him.
Oh no.
So we had a friend of
Statute of
ours.
limitations expired?
No. Sorry. So
I knew that was coming.
So we're doing or a friend of mine who's a trooper. He
Oh,
stops.
yeah. You're on my ship list.
He stops and gets with me, and he's off duty, right? He's in plain clothes.
Angel. By the way, God rest his soul, too.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
But he stops. He's bullshitting with us, blah blah blah, whatever. And I hear Mark on the channel because I'm scanning, and I hear Mark, and he's close, and I'm like, oh, I said, guys, we gotta set this shit up. I said, we're gonna set up Debana. We're gonna set him up. All right. I says, can you play a drunk? And the trooper goes, hell yeah. And I said, all right. So
He is a trooper.
So yeah. So I call him. I go, hey, can you meet us down here at the cemetery? He goes, yeah, sure. So he meets us down there. Mark gets out, and I'm like, look, I ain't taking him, man. Mark hadn't quite made sergeant yet. I think this was a year before he did, and I had just made sergeant maybe a year before or whatever. So I said, I ain't taking him, man. I need to be on the road. And he goes, no problem. I said, he goes, how bad is he? And I said, I don't know, man. He's freaking slurring his words. You can't hold it. You can't, okay, fine. So he goes up and talks to him.
I know
And Mark,
exactly where you go with
Mark
this.
looks back at me and he goes, oh, like this. And I'm like, this guy hasn't had a drop to him. And I go, do you smell anything? He goes, no, it's weird. I don't smell anything. He goes, but dude, he's soused. Maybe it's vodka or something. I don't know. Man. This guy's hammered. I'm taking his ass. So he gets him out. He's doing the test. And of course, the troopers are, all over. And he goes, all right, sir, I need you. I said, okay, hold on before we put a handcuff on you.
But if you remember, Ronnie, also, I called for a tow truck.
Yeah.
I canceled the tow truck. Yeah. Had to explain to my sergeant why I canceled it. Yeah.
So
And all you had to say was Ronnie Gregory. And he said,
We get this. Yeah, we get that. Yeah.
So he says,
Enough said.
he looks at me and he goes, you motherfucker. And I said, Gotcha! So it was great,
And if you
man.
remember, I said to you, we have a long way to go to retire, and I'm Italian, and I don't forget. And I still never forgot. That's all I'm saying.
Dude, it was great freaking
No, that was good.
times. It was
You got
great
me, man.
times,
That was kudos to you, man.
It was
You-
great times.
Yeah, it was, man.
That's good shit.
All right, so Mark, go ahead and tell us a little about what you've been doing for the past couple of years since you've been retired, and then if you want to go into anything specific, please do so. But mainly, we just want to hear about what you've been doing for the last 2 years to help folks.
Okay. Well, I just started an organization a year ago. It's called Protecting the Guardian. There's 4 members of it. There's myself, and you'll know one member, Therese, who was Mark Smock. You remember Mark Smock?
Yeah.
His daughter, who
Yeah.
Mark died by suicide.
Yep.
And a mental health professional, Nick, out of Chicago, and another a retired Connecticut trooper, Ron Clark, out of Connecticut, who's amazing people. So what our organization does, we do presentations for mental health, wellness, and suicide prevention for law enforcement, or all first responders. And besides COVID, suicide is actually the #1 killer for first responders, which is heartbreaking, totally heartbreaking. So I do presentations, we do peer support training, awareness, and we're in an infancy stage. Only about a year that we've got the organization going, but not brag. I travel all around the country talking about this serious topic.
Do you want to give them your website
Sure,
and
sure.
email or whatever?
Absolutely. Actually, I'll give it a nice little plug. It's protectingtheguardian.com. And my email is mark@protectingtheguardian.com. That's mark@protectingtheguardian.com.
Is that M-A-A?
Yeah, it's only one A. Yeah.
It's not MAAUK. It's MARK at protectingtheguardian.com. So, any personal experiences that you can, elaborate without names, or if you don't want to do that, that's absolutely perfectly fine.
Yeah, along those lines, what got you into this?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what got away, because I'm very open about it. I had 2 suicide attempts in my career. I kept it very hushed up, very quiet. I'm diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and anxiety, and compassion fatigue. Since coming off the job, I'm 100% better than I was on the job. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm not here to bash agencies or bash departments, but law enforcement's toxic. That's the bottom line, and we eat our own.
Absolutely.
I feel bad saying that. There are good administrators out there. There are good officers out there, but unfortunately, the bad outweighs the good. Mental health is huge in law enforcement. And when I went through my struggles, and one of my struggles was I had a baby die in my arms while I was doing CPR. I went to 9/11, spent 3 weeks up there. And I'm very open about it. And I was a victim of child sexual abuse when I was a kid by a police officer.
Oh, man.
So I had a lot of trauma in my life, and then I was working for a micromanaging lieutenant who just didn't get it. That's the bottom line. His job was to make my life miserable for me. And Ronnie, you and I go back a long time. I was never a yes man.
No.
I said it like it was.
No.
Yeah.
That's why we got along so well, my brother.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Amen on that. And that was our demise also.
Yes, sir, it was.
But we can hold our heads proud, can't we?
I put my head on the pillow every night,
Amen.
knowing that I did the right thing for every cop that I ever worked with
Yep.
and that worked under me.
Yep.
Put my head on the pillow,
Oh,
and I still get texts every day from officers that work for me asking questions. Hey, I need to talk to somebody, and I freaking call them back like that fast.
Yep.
I mean, that's just what you got to be. So,
Well, I mean, your reputation speaks for itself. That's the bottom line. Take
Every one of these
obviously
tables
take
does.
it as a
Absolutely.
compliment.
Yep.
Granted, we're old guys, but we're still in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And young cops that are listening right now need to listen to the older guys, because we know what time it is.
Absolutely.
So, getting back to my story, I got a real bad evaluation, was recommended to be demoted. I started going through a major depression stage. I gained a ton of weight. I went up to about almost 290 pounds. When I stress, I'm a binge eater. I'm a stress eater. Love my donuts. Love the Big Macs.
Yeah,
the
we are cops.
Yeah. Plus, it was either free or half price too. So that goes without saying.
we don't like those at all, do we?
No.
Hate them.
Lucky
Yeah,
donuts
like,
taste like? I've never
Yeah, I
had
never
one.
had a donut.
I think it's a round little thing. By the way, just so you know, my hometown of Quincy, Massachusetts was the first Dunkin' Donuts ever built. Just throwing some useless trivia out there.
So see, you were bred to be a donut eater.
Well, I'm going to go a step further with it. I was sworn in for Braintree, Mass. Police Department on June 6th, which was National Donut Day. That's a true story.
Okay.
And I retired on April Fool's Day.
Oh, there you go.
As we know, God looks out for cops and fools. Yeah.
So by the way, if y'all are wondering, And I busted his ass when he first walked in. I said, no 80s hair bands in the group. Mark is living the dream. I mean, Jeff would have done that too, but
I don't know.
I've gone easy on him so far, just so you know. Actually, I've gone easy on all you motherfuckers. And I can bust him up pretty
Thank
good.
God.
Yeah.
Thank
You know
God.
that's a wig, right?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
It's a weave.
He's got weed. Yes.
So, Mark, who got you help?
So what happened was, and you'll know this, and everybody in the circle will know this person. When the day I decided I wanted to die by suicide, I actually wrote a suicide note that night, hung it off my rearview mirror, said a prayer. Back then, I'm going to bring Christianity in for a second, if you guys don't mind.
Oh, that's fine.
I was Catholic back then,
Right.
and Catholics believed suicide is damaging the soul. You're not going to go to heaven. So I was mad at God also. Especially when the baby died in my arms, I was just like, you got to be kidding me here.
Yeah, why'd you let this happen?
Why'd this happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the doctor actually said to me at CFR, it's called the Book of Life, and if you're a Christian, you understand the Book of Life. My answer to him was, that's bullshit. Why is God taking a 4-month-old baby?
Right.
It's just wrong in so many ways. So after I wrote my suicide note, my wife was on my back constantly. You got to get some help, and I just said, I can't get help because I'm going to get fired if I get help. The stigma. I was afraid my agency wasn't going to back me. I was afraid they were going to put me on the rubber gun squad. They were going to reassign me, demote me, whatever. So I just held the pain in for months and months and months. So I got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And you guys got to remember one thing: suicide is not about dying; it's about stopping the pain.
Right.
So bring back Christianity for a second. So when I said my prayer, I said to God, "Hey, listen, I know I'm Catholic, and I'm not going to go into heaven if I die by suicide, or I am going to die by suicide. But I'll work the front gate. I won't charge a detail rate. just throw me a donut. We'll call it even. So,
And when Jeff gets here, he's my partner on the other side.
Yeah, no, he's not kidding. Are you kidding me? I know so much shit about him. He's not kidding.
Well, Mark would be there.
Yes. Another one. God rest his soul. Yeah.
God rest his soul. We lost Mark's brother several years back.
Yeah.
Jeff's brother, Mark, several years ago.
We love
I
Mark. Yeah.
I worked with Mark, and he was freaking awesome. You think this guy's a nut? Oh my God.
Well, he's in heaven right now eating at the Chinese buffet because that was his thing. So I put the gun in my mouth and I said, here it goes. And I literally was squeezing the trigger. And it was very calming, which just sounds kind of weird to say that. And to this day, I can still taste the metal in my mouth and I'm not being triggered by any means. And Craig McGee pulled up.
Gregor.
Yeah, the Whopper.
The Whopper.
A beautiful man. Yeah, beautiful person. He talked me down. So he said to me,
His picture's still
at Keller's.
Keller's on the wall.
Yeah, another one, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Boy, is everybody dying around us or what?
Man.
Yeah,
That's why I keep drinking whiskey. I'm hoping to thin all this shit out.
Live for today.
Blow it up.
Grow your hair long, smoke weed, you're all right. Yeah. Woo! I do have my marijuana card, by the way.
Everybody's
Yes.
retired. Why not, right?
Maybe
So-
you can borrow that.
We could probably work out something. So Craig talked me down. I went home. Craig said to me, "I'll give you one or two options: either get help or I'm going to Baker Act you." And I said, Baker Act, I'm going to lose my job. Craig, please don't do that to me. His natural brother, Craig, he's, I'm not going to report you. I'm going to really believe you're going to get help, and I'm going to call you in the morning. So I went home early that night, made a BS story up, had suicide thoughts again, put the gun back in my mouth at my pool. Then I thought about my wife, the trauma that I'd leave behind. I thought about Jeff, my friends, my brothers, and all that stuff. And I said, shit, I got to get some help. This is not good. So I called a buddy of mine, and he got me in the Boston Police Stress Unit, which is their peer support unit. I was Baker Acted actually in Massachusetts. Went through it. I spent my 4 or 5 days there, came back to Florida. But here's the problem. I came back to Florida, I became very angry, extremely angry. And Jeff knows this story. We were at a training class where there was an instructor talking about mental health. And I got to be honest with you, he was way off base. And I took that as an insult, and I got up and spoke and pissed off the whole room because I dropped the F-bomb about 100 times. So, anyways.
No, not you.
Was it a room of cops?
Yeah. We're offended. So, yeah. And this is before this day and age, So I just said to myself, I'm not the only cop that's ever struggled. There's absolutely no way. So I found a therapist, and I gave her a shout out, Jamie Bridges. She's an amazing person, retired OPD. She got me to where I need to be, and so now I just said to myself, I gotta help my brothers and sisters. So
how do we get past, let's say you have a great administration who wants to help the officers. obviously it's going to be an internal thing. How do we convince officers to reach out for that help?
Yeah, and I can tell you, Camille, that's an amazing, good question. It's very difficult because what now is happening now is we're throwing out good officers.
Right.
Officers that can be salvaged, that just need some time off, maybe medication, obviously therapy, and you can move on from that. You know, I worked 11 years with PTSD, and there was some shitty days and some good days. But we got to show the officers, first of all, the agency's got to show the officers that they have their back.
Right.
So I'm going to say this as an example. You go to work and you get shot, and you're in the emergency room, and the chief of police, the sheriff, the captains all come down. Hey, you know, Camille, you come back to work whenever you're ready, brother. We got your back, on and on and on.
They don't do the same for mental health.
You just read my mind. They don't do the same for mental health.
They don't.
You know what they're thinking? Risk management.
Absolutely.
We're going to get rid of this person. He's a liability. She's a liability. And that's wrong. That's just totally wrong. When suicide outnumbers, besides COVID, outnumbers line of duty deaths, the FBI would call that a clue. That's just wrong. And here we are in 2022, and we're still, this is like new. And it's not new. So we have to encourage officers to speak out and to get help. And it's okay, and as cliche as it sounds, it's okay not to be okay.
So right now, if let's say an officer does approach administration, say, I have these thoughts and I'm on the verge of doing this, what's the protocol? What's the average protocol for agencies, and what happens to that officer who's honestly seeking some type of help?
Well, it's twofold. One, a lot of agencies will put them on admin leave. I'm okay with the admin leave, but yeah, as you know, when people are on admin leave, the rumors are flying everywhere and all that stuff. You know, I mean, cops are the worst bullshitters ever.
Right.
So the advice I would say, or the thing I would say is this: is that get this officer in their comfort zone, get them the help they need, give them the time off. And then they have to soul search also.
Right.
But just show the officers, the bottom line is they have their backs. You know, agencies buy bulletproof vests, buy tasers, guns, scope rifles, all this crap for physically to protect people. Why are we protecting them mentally? You remember we're all this room, all this circle right here, we're all fighting demons.
Absolutely.
Everyone is personal, professional. We could all close our eyes right now and think of that one call that broke our hearts.
Yep.
Or that triggered us. And right now, there's on average, there's 100,000 cops in the United States, active cops that are diagnosed with PTSD. Now, I say it's for a reason, diagnosed. Those are the ones that actually went to a mental health professional and said, yeah, you do have PTSD. The numbers are much higher than that.
So I was going to say, so undiagnosed is probably 100 times that. At least
easily.
100 times, maybe more.
Anybody who's on the job any amount of time is going to have. I mean, you and I went out to that lady who was hit by the semi. I mean, just that kind of stuff. And then I worked child pornography cases, and
that's horrific.
Still today, you put it away, but it will never go away. And there's just always this. It's there, like you said. We're all fighting demons. And
I responded to a traffic crash in town, and I get there, and it says a motorcycle, and I'm almost there, and they say it's a police motorcycle. Well, I arrive, and it's Timmy. One of my best. I grew up with the kid. We've known each other since we were 9 years old.
Right.
And I show up, and there he is, laying on the ground like this, with fluid coming out of his ear, and he's seasoned and everything else, and I'm holding him, and I'm crying, and I'm trying to set up an LZ and everything else, because we only had like freaking 9 cops in the whole agency back then. There was only 2 10-8 or in service. So, and I'm holding my best friend in the whole world dying in my arms. And thank God he made it. He came out of it and everything else, and no irreparable damage other than lost hearing in his ear. But, I mean...
Did the agency do anything for you? Say, hey,
come on, go to your next call.
Yeah.
What's wrong
They let
with
me
you?
go to the hospital.
Yeah.
They let me stay at the hospital until it was all over, until, he was basically sedated with, a Tom Turkey popper in his head, waiting for his head to pop off because he had brain damage and everything else. And I was back to work. I think it was next day was my day off. The very next day after that, I was back to work. I didn't talk to nobody. And all I could do was sit on the corner in my cop car and go, we didn't have cell phones back then. We're talking 1991. I didn't have a cell phone back then.
19 or 1891?
Shut up.
Sorry.
So I'm sitting there, and all I could think about is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay? Is he okay? And I kept going back to the station and calling, But nobody got with me. Nobody did anything. It was terrible.
But so 30 years later, are agencies doing any better?
They are. Actually, they are. Most agencies have a peer support unit, which is good. But let me talk a little bit about peer support for a second. there's two elements of peer support. Number one,
Very much so.
I'm a big advocate for peer support. A peer support unit should be a proactive unit,
Okay.
not a deactive.
So they would have reached out to
Amen.
to Ronnie and say,
They should,
hey,
yes.
is your friend? Let's
Yep.
whatever.
Let's go talk. Let's
yeah.
go.
Instead of waiting for him to come to them.
Exactly. And peer support is also awareness. You know, again, we go back to this is the number one killer of law enforcement besides COVID. So peer support units should be doing healthy wellness checks. They should be going to roll call briefings and saying, hey, listen, we lost a cop a couple of days ago to suicide. This is we're going to see what happened. If you need help, here's your resources. And I will say this, as the more I get involved in this, if you're looking to seek mental health assistance, go to a mental health professional that's related to first responders or military, that type of
Absolutely.
thing, because they get it. And there's no disrespect to any other mental health professionals. Don't take it the wrong way. But my therapist was 16 years on the job. And
So do you find that most of those health professionals have experience in that field?
Yeah.
Okay. So they know what you're saying. They know
They
where you're coming from.
they do. Absolutely they do. But we got to do a better job of taking care of our own.
Right.
And it's such a taboo subject that nobody wants to talk about. It's the elephant in the room. And I can think on two hands how many people I've known that's died by suicide.
So, Mark, what would you recommend for a coworker, not administration, but a coworker who's starting to see something like
With their own partner or something?
with their own partner,
Or they've heard a little something, right? Yeah.
You know, so I mean, something's just not right. You know, I mean, obviously, I don't want to go to the admin because Camille's looking like something's doing something because he's going to get fired.
Or he's made little hints, or something. Yeah.
So, what would you recommend for a coworker?
Okay. I call it the difficult conversation. And what I mean by the difficult conversation is this: when we go into domestics, we tell people how to run their marriages. Pretty much, we do death notifications. So why can't
How to
we
raise their kids.
how to raise their kids? How to take them to school? Yeah. What's politically correct? Not politically correct?
Yeah,
all
God.
that stuff. So if we're having a difficult conversations on calls and with civilians, we should have the difficult conversation with each other.
With our own, right.
This is all we got. And I don't mean this in a bad way. We have our families and our loved ones, absolutely. But if you've never actually done the job, you don't get it.
You don't know.
You do not get it.
You don't get it. You don't get it at all. So being you're working side by side, and I notice, you're not yourself. You're not joking around much or anything like that. We can have that conversation. Hey, bro, everything okay? Anything I can help you with?
Right.
And just have
Yeah.
that conversation. It doesn't have to go with the administration. It could be something. Hey, I've just had a couple of bad days, or I'm having marriage problems, or I really screwed up on that call the other day, or hey, I think I'm in trouble, and on and on.
Absolutely.
That's where the brotherhood comes in,
Absolutely.
man. This is what we signed up for. We signed up for the brotherhood, man.
Well, hold on. We did.
We did. Old school guys.
Can
Old
I
school.
ask you a question, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming from Boston,
Right?
all right? I'm from up north. I'm from Jersey.
Yep. Word exit. That's the old
Yeah.
joke. Yeah.
Dude, I've asked him that like 4,000 times.
And I'm not trying to knock the South or Florida, but
No, you can. You're right. What you're gonna say.
I think
the brotherhood is different
gun?
down here.
Where's my
It
gun?
is different.
It is different.
Yeah, it's totally
It is.
different.
When we came down, even back then, when we came down to Florida and got on with these agencies, it was noticeably different.
Right.
It was. I was like, why isn't it like up north? And not to compare the two, like
Right.
up north, it should be that way. But the brotherhood
Exactly.
was different.
Let me ask you this. I know in Florida we have one vehicle, one man units. Would that make it? I mean, in Massachusetts,
Well,
did they have two cars?
that- that kinda
because you
depends on-
really, when you're with somebody 12 hours, you really
Sure, and I get that, and that's probably more clicky
okay.
ish. You'd be closer to the certain people on your squad or
Yeah.
person you work with and have better knowledge of them because you're with them every day.
Right.
But even with one man vehicles, you still meet up after each call. You
Yeah,
still go and
absolutely.
hang out and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even throughout my career down here, I had close knit friends, but nothing like up north. If you did something up north, someone would go rat on you, or not rat on you, but tell on you.
Rat's fine.
No, but it was understood.
You would take care of your problems on your shift.
If I had no idea who you were, but I knew you were on the job,
Yeah.
I had your back.
Yes.
Okay, but down here, it's like, I don't care.
The cop's a cop.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
But-
a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. Good.
But I'm just saying that, unfortunately, I didn't see that same brotherhood down here. Now, I wasn't law enforcement up here. I was a volunteer firefighter, so I saw a lot of I dealt with a lot of cops up there, but I just knew there was a different type of brotherhood than when I came
Now
down
there
here.
was like I met Ronnie, 91, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And we were friends right off since
Yeah.
then. So I had relationships with people that I trusted. But I didn't have it didn't matter, like you said, if you knew somebody or didn't know somebody, you guys watched out for each other. Even if you hated that person, you would be the first one to back them.
Here's what I think a lot of the issue is up north, you have generations of cops.
That's a good point.
I mean, you have grandfather, great-grandfather, father, son, whatever. You have generation. So you have someone to teach you how to frickin' be a cop. You know what I'm saying? You get down here and you just don't have, I did, because my dad was a cop for almost 30 years. So I had that. And I was raised under that. And even if you don't, I think it depends on, you got agencies, there's 5 man or women, whatever, agencies all over the United States. They're actually, the majority of the agencies are like 10 or less.
Smaller agencies, right?
So you have these agencies where they may not even see their freaking partner. Their only partner is another deputy from another county or another city, officer from another city who is in the same boat. He ain't got nobody to fall back on. So I think they kind of, the academy told us we got to do this. Where you and I and I don't know about you guys, but I'd say, hey Dad, what do you think about this? And he's like, screw that, that's bullshit. You ain't doing that bullshit. And I'm like, all right, cool, thanks.
I called my dad and he told me to sell him insurance. I don't know.
My mom was a correctional officer, so she felt, I could talk to her about criminal justice and in general, and she understood. But
So she said put him in solitary.
yeah,
When I was with an agency up here in Volusia, I actually took several folks over to the jail that his mom was at. I didn't know him yet. So years later, he's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Mrs. Long, what? That was your mom? She was a tough lady, man."
the funny thing is, I drove my first cop
the
job.
branch jail.
My first cop job, I drove a paddy wagon. You mentioned paddy wagon earlier. And she would call the station before cell phones. And they said, you got a 42 and a half or whatever from the jail.
Yeah.
So I'd say, hey, what? Stop by Krispy Kreme and bring us some donuts on your way out here. So I pull in my paddy wagon. I have 4 or 5, they're like, oh, we're getting donuts? No.
There's that word again. What are donuts?
Yeah. So
you didn't go over your numbers.
oh, no. So
and I'm going to put that up on the screen now.
So this is, it's Blue Help, right?
Yeah, that's what organization I used to be with. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I looked this up, and I've looked this up in the past, and 2019 seemed to be really bad. 247, and then it seemed to drop in 2020 to 180, and then it looks like it's trending in a decent direction.
Right.
What are we doing to bring these numbers down?
I think we're doing more awareness would be my guess. And again, it's just we're in a generation of social media and things like that. So I think that maybe some of the I really hate to say this, but maybe like the old school cops that I'll just have a beer, don't worry about your problems or anything like that. They're kind of fading away now.
They did this.
Which is nothing wrong with this. This is choir practice, man.
Choir practice.
Oh yeah. We had some good times, man. Yeah.
In a play choir practice.
And there's a form of therapy. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, unless somebody's taking a video.
That could be. We had that conversation earlier. Yeah, rat bastard. Yeah, so
Rat bastard.
Yeah.
I was looking at this number, and what surprised me, it was profession by years of service. Law enforcement, 16 years. Firefighters, 15 years. EMS, 12 years. Dispatchers, 3 years. Average years of service before committing suicide.
Right.
And that just goes to show how stressful the dispatching position is.
And they're forgotten.
Right. I do want to throw a shout out to dispatchers
Absolutely.
because, number one, I told every one of my dispatchers I was scared to death to do their job.
I would never do it.
Because, I was willing to get into a gunfight. I used to run into fires. I don't care. But I don't want to sit behind a phone and have zero control over what's going on. Yeah. And these dispatchers have to talk to these people, have to talk to family members who are trying to talk their loved ones.
Right. Stay on line with them until they go on
when they're in
scene.
crisis.
And I can understand that because I could. There is no way I could ever handle
Oh, no.
being on the phone listening to half the crap that dispatchers have to.
Yeah,
have to listen
it's a
to.
tough job. It's a thankless job.
In 1983, the agency that I became a cop at hired me because my dad and my brother both worked there. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They hired me as a part-time dispatcher. And this was at the city anyway, it was pre-911. So when people called in and they're going, "Get the fucking cops over here, they're fucking shooting us." We had no caller ID. We had no screen that told us where they were at. So unless you could get them to talk to you and tell you where they were at, you had no freaking clue. I would just keep the radio and go, "I have a caller on the line advising that there's shots fired and they're being shot at." And I remember this clearly, and I can't tell you where it's coming from. Stand by. Meanwhile, I've got the other phone line, and I'm going to the phone company. "Can you trap and trace this line so we can find out where it came from? I've got somebody calling saying they're being murdered." And oh my God, the phone company back then are like, "Well, sir, we're going to have to verify them." And it took forever. So finally, a good dispatcher, and we will all agree,
Absolutely.
a good dispatcher is priceless.
It's your lifeline.
Yeah.
Buddy,
Yeah.
I would give them everything I could give them. I would bring them stuff in the dispatch center. I would give them a break to go potty. I mean, whatever I could do to help my dispatchers. And you know what? I always had an awesome relationship with every dispatcher on my shift because I treated them like a human. You got cops up there like, "I said, Seminole, that it was," hey.
That's tasteless.
It is
Yeah, it is
tasteless. It
tasteless,
absolutely
yeah.
is.
To you new officers, don't make that mistake. Do not treat your dispatchers like crap. They will remember.
Even if you have a shitty, brand new, or just a shitty dispatcher, they're not going to be there that long. They will get some training. Just bear with it because somebody's listening in your dispatch comm center and they'll correct it or they're writing it down or they're taking care of it. So just deal with it. Keep your cool because they are our lifeline. I couldn't have done the job without them.
No reason to be a dick.
If you do lose your cool, apologize. Go back and tell them,
Man
"Hey,
up.
this is
Many
what's
times.
going on.
That's on me.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, this is what I was going through. I don't know what you're going through in there." Because,
So funny dispatch story. I'm out on I-4 and it's misty, dewy. You remember how I-4 used to get.
Right.
Cars covered in dew, right? And I look at I'm trying to read this damn VIN off this abandoned vehicle. And I'm reading it and they go, "No record found. No record found." So finally I get it all cleaned off and I keyed up and I go, "Okay, dispatch, I've got it wiped off. Give it to me like I gave it to you." And I just unkeyed the mic and I just shook my head. And all of a sudden you hear clickety click.
Yeah, everybody's popping it.
And all of a sudden everybody goes up in my seat and they go, "And what do you have wiped off, Sarge?" And I went, "Get the fuck out of here."
Go back to his own. Go back to his own.
Yeah, it was
The
tough.
70s
anyway.
music pop in.
Yeah.
let's go back to the.
Yeah, so back to the. I had another. So you mentioned Baker Act. So what happens? Because I never worked admin, I was always investigation. What happens if an officer now gets Baker Act because of this?
Well, they're obviously going to have to go to fit for duty. So when they get done with their 72 hours of being Baker acted, they're going to have to go to EAP, this Police Assistance
Right.
Program, and have be fit for duty or not fit for duty. So you're climbing that ladder. So if you're ruled not fit for duty, you're going to be on admin leave, hopefully till you get better.
What protections does the officer have when they come in and they say, "Listen, I need this," and they get Baker acted, administrative lead? Are they protected in this?
Same question. I just want to make sure. Baker Act is in Florida. That's a protective custody.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
want to make sure for those of you who are not in Florida.
Right, yeah. So a Baker Act is a voluntary or involuntary commitment for 72 hours for a mental health evaluation.
Up to
Up to
72.
72,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So what protections does the officer have in this situation?
Well, remember-
I mean, can they just? I mean, is there? Do they even have a protection, or can the officer? Because you mentioned earlier risk management. Can the agency said, "Yeah, no."
Well, you have to look at an administrator's eyes for a second. And obviously gets Baker acted for a mental health issue, a suicide attempt, or depression, PTSD, or something like that. That officer's, carrying a gun. Obviously has the ultimate authority to take somebody's life and also take somebody's freedom. So that's huge. So you have to be mentally sound for those officers. So I understand why they're placed on admin leave. And I agree with it. You can't just, oh, you're okay, go back to work.
Yeah, it's safety for the citizens.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But now if an officer is ruled unfit for duty, that does fall under HIPAA.
Right.
And there are a lot of in-house treatment centers now all around the country for first responders and military, but they will have to ride that storm out. That's the bottom line. But the problem is, and I've seen this. This is what I've been told, and I agree with it. Also, what's the number one stress of law enforcement? It comes from the agency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
it comes from the agency, and most
Lieutenants.
I never had any stress on the job. I mean, other than the immediate,
Sure.
I'm going to get killed stress.
right.
But what came from the agency?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe my wife. Just kidding, babe.
She's in the other room going, yeah, okay.
She's copying his stuff right now.
Damn right she is.
Yeah, he can ride with somebody else.
Damn right.
A couple episodes we talked about two deputies. I forget if it was Hillsborough or where the officer attempted committed suicide this past New Year's.
South.
St. Lucie County.
Yeah.
St. Lucie, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they had to
And
take him off
comment.
life support, and then his girlfriend ended up committing suicide after that.
Right.
Now the sheriff made a statement about increasing health awareness and an app, and it's just a sad situation. So where can these officers immediately get? Is there an app out there? Because I didn't look it up. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna remember while you're fresh in my mind. Look at my notes here for a second. There's an app called Here for You Blue.
Okay.
Here for
Oh,
You Blue. It's
really?
it's a telemed. You can sit in your cruiser and talk to a mental health professional right on that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Here for You Blue.
Here for You Blue.
Okay.
Yeah. There's also another one called Back the Blue.
Okay.
And I'm just looking at my notes.
And those will help the officer who's in crisis immediately talk
Yep.
to somebody who can help them at that moment.
Right, absolutely, yep. And then obviously, if you're in crisis, they can immediately get you assistance.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of officers have the fears if they call one of these apps, or they go to their coworkers or their bosses and say, listen, and next thing you know, oh my God, my gun was just taken away from me. I'm never going to be a cop again. So and also the stigma of mental health also is huge too.
Now, do the mental health professionals who are on these apps, do they have any reporting requirements to the agencies?
No, because mental health falls under HIPAA.
HIPAA, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So no, but again, if you're in crisis, that's a whole different story.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to get help immediately.
Right. But if you want your help like the next day or something like that, they're not obligated to call the agency. However, but if they feel you're unfit for duty,
Right.
they're not going to take on that liability, obviously. And that leads me to say liability. That's what agencies think of people that are struggling with mental health illnesses is liability. And I understand liability, but there are a lot of good officers that aren't working anymore that should still be working.
I've got it on the screen now. Here for You Blue.
Yeah.
And that's an app, guys. So if you need a reference, just come back to this video, pop it up. We are at about 48 minutes in. Just pop it up and look at it, and that's awesome. And I'm going to put a comment and a link down below for your organization that you're working
Yep, I
for,
appreciate that.
and your email if you don't
Oh,
mind.
absolutely.
I'll put your
Yep.
email in
Yep.
the link for the video. Mark is always available. Do we have any more questions?
One quick
Absolutely. Go ahead,
question.
John.
As an officer, not an agency, how can they get you to come out and give a presentation?
Just contact me at Protecting the Guardian or my email, one or the other. I'm the one I'm like our webmaster for our website, and we're more happy to come in.
Okay.
We do the right thing. We're not in it. Let me make this perfectly clear. We are not in it for the money. That's
Have
the
you had
point.
agencies come in and give a talk?
Oh yeah, I've been to several. In fact, I just got back 2 weeks ago from Duluth, Minnesota.
Okay.
Minus 22 degrees.
Was it cold there?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Paquito. Yeah.
Give me the name of the organization again.
Protecting the Guardian.
Protecting with an IN or protecting?
Protecting is my Boston accent. Protecting the Guardian.
All right. So, do you have any final words that you'd like to impart in this episode before we wrap it up?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, there's also another organization that's based out of Orlando called Bluelinesupport. That's manned by officers also. And there's also Copline is another one. Those manned by officers also. So I'm going to say that to say this. It's okay not to be okay. If you're struggling with an issue, you're only human. That's the bottom line. And I tell my story for a reason. I don't tell my story for pity or, hey, that guy went through a lot of crap or anything like that. I want to reach out and say, listen, this can happen to anybody. I am an alpha male. I like to bust balls. I like to joke around like anybody else can. When I tell people I hit two suicide attempts, you're the class clown. And I struggle. This stuff is real. It can happen to anybody. Never, ever, ever be embarrassed to seek help. And that's what we're here for. The Brotherhood is here for that, to help each other.
Absolutely. And along that note, we said it last show, if you ever find yourself in a situation where, man, I just need somebody to talk to, I get email alerts. Camille does. Yep. We get email alerts on YouTube. When somebody puts a comment, you can call me. I'll figure out how to get a hold of you, or send us a Facebook message on Messenger at Surviving the Badge.
Direct message.
Absolutely, direct message. I will call you immediately. Our email is retiredcopsrule@gmail.com. Send us an email. You know what? I will call you, and I will get out of my meeting, whatever I'm in, because, I do have a part-time job. and I will call you immediately, and I will then refer you to Mark, and Mark will get you in touch with the people that you need to be in touch with. So don't ever forget that. You can reach out to any of us, and we will get a hold of you right now. I mean, it's probably within 10 minutes. Middle of the night, okay, I am a pretty sound sleeper. You may have a little trouble, but you can go to Protecting the Guardian. Hopefully somebody will reach out to you.
We have a resource page on our
website. And download those apps where you can immediately talk to somebody who can help you.
And not just for you, but for your brother.
Absolutely.
Or sister.
Absolutely.
And that's all first responders in military also.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Let's not forget our firefighters. Let's forget our military.
Dispatchers.
Our dispatch, crime scene. We're one big family when it comes to that. We're really one big family.
Man, that's fantastic.
Good stuff.
Mark, Jeff, I can't thank you guys enough for being here on the show tonight. It means a lot. I know this is a subject that we really needed to cover, and you guys being the experts that you are, I wanted to get you in here. Jeff didn't say a whole lot, but he's been like that his whole career until you get him started. And then all I can tell you is...
he's hitting the bourbon, so I'm a little surprised.
Yeah. All I can tell you is look out once you get him started.
Wait for the next show.
Wait for the next show.
More than 11.
All right. Hey, these guys are going to join us for the next show. They have been so gracious as to volunteer to come in for the next show. So we hope you tune in. Guys, please like or subscribe down below. It really helps us out a lot. We really appreciate each and every one of you. And just remember, at Surviving the Badge, we still got your 6.